So since we all entered our respective bubbles and COVID kind of swept over the world, we've seen two major developments for our direct customers, publishers, and media companies. Absolutely record engagement. Consumers are engaged like never before in the news, and that trend's kept up even to this week. And that has created even more supply, more impressions than we've ever seen before. Which on any other day would be a really, really good development for the media business and for journalism in general. However, as the events of COVID unfolded, we also saw something happen simultaneously to that increase in engagement. Marketers started to pause and pull out. So there was a lot of obvious categories that we saw first: travel, hospitality, offline entertainment. They all pulled out pretty much immediately. And then we sort of saw a softening in new creative and new campaigns throughout the month of March. As April has come into fold now, we've also seen some additional categories come out, automotive in particular. You have to assume the consumer today can't really go to a car lot, so buying a vehicle is difficult. So now we've got this whole host of categories that is either off or paused right now in the market, and we have record supply. So that's kind of the bad news, but there's some good news. On one hand, we have seen some categories skyrocket dramatically because it's actually an incredible time to advertise. So streaming services, like Disney Plus, are all over the place. Business productivity tools, how we're connected right now. The way work happens is changing, and so people are jumping into their marketing strategies and taking advantage. We're seeing spikes in education as well. So some of those, kind of downward trends in major marketing categories have been offset to some degree by some new categories that are showing some signs of life right now, which is exciting. Now, the biggest concern we have and our customers have and the industry has is funding really important content that the consumer's engaged with. While there are some people that do subscribe to content, the vast majority of the audiences in the web and app ecosystems consume content largely for free. That's paid for by advertising. As this crisis has kind of hit, a lot of brands automatically activated their controversial targeting or anti-targeting mechanisms to pull out of content related to COVID or anything to do with this crisis, as they would have in the event of any other major world event. And that's a concern because now we have this record volume seeing a lack of bid density or demand from marketers. We've started to have a lot of conversations with the buy side to communicate this impact, and we are hearing some encouraging things. One of the main reasons why so many brands pulled out is because their creative wasn't really appropriate to this moment. There's nothing worse than a news story about this crisis alongside a piece of creative that almost comes across as tone deaf. That can be a very, very, very negative experience for the end consumer in that brand. And what we're hearing is that there's a lot of retooling happening right now within major brands. There's entirely new creative and messaging strategies being instituted, and that those retooling efforts are coming to an end. And so we should start to see new campaigns and new creative flood into the market over the course of May and June. And those brands have communicated a desire to come back. When they have messaging and creative and strategy that is appropriate to the circumstance, they're far more comfortable being alongside this content than in a circumstance where the content and the creative really just doesn't jive. So that's exciting. That's something that we're keeping an eye on. And that's kind of the hopeful data point that we're bringing to media companies and publishers who really, really, really need to see this demand come back online to deal with this onslaught of traffic that they've all seen. I look at this as an opportunity for everybody in the business of contextual targeting or anti-targeting, in that this is kind of an example of where the art and science have a big wedge. These tools are pretty binary. You either target or you avoid, 0 or 1. And what we're seeing with Corona is, the difference between it being appropriate or possible or not is the creative strategy. And people have talked an awful lot about the end state of programmatic in this marketplace, finding some synergy between the art and science. We're seeing a huge gap right now. It's more obvious than ever that we've got a long way to go to improve that. And I think that's probably a huge opportunity for any of the companies in this space to recognize, they have to protect brands, absolutely. But there's also, I think, an ethical responsibility to ensure that this entire mechanism works effectively, particularly in a time like this, to fund content and to fund journalism that we all enjoy and read and use in our day-to-day lives to an increasing degree. So I think, to me, it's an opportunity to fix the gap between the art and science and this technology ecosystem.